Welcome to the Health Hobby Podcast, the place for busy moms searching for simple solutions to weight loss, more energy, better nutrition, fitness, and healthy living time management. I'm your host, Amanda Ford. Stick with me and make health your hobby as I guide you through simple steps and skill-building exercises so you can finally hit those dreamy health and weight loss goals. Take it from me, it's time to kick all those fad diets and quick fix workouts to the curb. It's all about slowing down and finding your very own rhythm of healthy living, because when you find your health, you find your joy. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to the Health Hobby Podcast, the podcast for busy moms like you and me who are ready to take their weight loss and overall wellness super seriously, but also want to get rid of the overwhelm of trying to get it all done. I got you. I'm here to gather all the concepts for you so you have simplified, actionable steps towards your dreamiest weight loss goals. If you're new here, I'm your host, Amanda Ford, and I'm so grateful you've stopped into my little space in the podcast universe to get inspired and to make healthy living your hobby right alongside of me. I want to remind everyone that you can sign up for my free community newsletter. You should totally be on there. Click the link for newsletter in the show notes. It's super quick and simple. I would really appreciate if you would sign up. If you've been listening for a while, I'd love to get to know you guys by signing up. This is a free way to support the podcast and also a really fun way to dive deeper into concepts that I talk about here. So I'd love to have you, but by signing up, this is a free way to support the podcast. So I'd really appreciate it. And also a really fun way to dive deeper into concepts that I talk about here, get a few extra that are exclusive to email subscribers, and also follow along with me on my personal healthy living journey. We are all in this together, friends. So today we're diving into a topic that's everywhere in the wellness world, but often means something different to everyone. That's clean eating. You've probably heard terms like organic, paleo, farm to table, gluten-free. I don't know, put in whatever you think is clean eating, right? But what do they actually mean when it comes to clean eating? It's so vague. And how do you know which approach, if any, fits your lifestyle and your weight loss goals? In this episode, I'm breaking down 11 clean eating concepts. Can you believe that? 11. I know that's crazy. We're going to explore where they come from, what they focus on, and what you'd want to consider if you're trying to make healthy food choices in the clean eating space. So whether you're a curious beginner, a busy mom trying to make sense of labels, or just someone who wants to feel better in their body, and that is such a really good reason and goal for revamping and cleaning up your nutrition. You will feel so good once you, I'm using air quotes, clean up your nutrition. But listen, you're in the right place today. So let's get into it. In preparation for this episode, I did some internet research, like I always do, to find the official definition of clean eating. I believe I've pinned down what it means, but I will let you be the judge after you listen to this episode, because I also brainstormed all the different eating styles that others may consider clean eating, and I came up with 11. I probably missed one, but geez, 11, can you believe that? How is anyone supposed to be able to take action with a splattering of definitions? So let me read to you some definitions that I pulled from some pretty solid sources. I'll be sure to link to these in the show notes like I always do. But I first went to the Mayo Clinic. They are a very well-rounded clinic. They also do a bunch of research, and it's a really well-known hospital organization. The Mayo Clinic defines clean eating as eating foods that are as close as possible to their natural state. This encourages us to make our meals from scratch to make them as clean as possible. So right there, it's pretty simple. It's not this crazy wild definition. It's pretty much just saying non-processed foods is kind of what I'm getting from that. When I go to Harvard, they say, although there's no official definition of just what clean eating means, the foundation of eating clean is choosing whole foods and foods in their less processed state. When possible, food choices are organic and based on what's in season in your geographic region. Okay, it's getting a little more detailed than Mayo Clinic. When choosing packaged foods with a label, foods with shorter ingredient lists are preferred and added sugars are limited. Holy cow, that was a mouthful. a lot more robust of a definition than Mayo Clinic. And I still saw something similar to Mayo Clinic. It says choosing whole foods versus, it doesn't say non-processed foods, but it is referring to whole foods. So that's foods that are, like raw fruits and vegetables, lean, meats, instead of things that are prepackaged, prepared for you. I also went to the Cambridge Dictionary, and their definition says the practice of eating only foods that are regarded as healthy, especially fresh food that has not been processed, i.e. given an industrial or chemical treatment. So again, we're seeing a theme here. And LSU, so Louisiana State University, if you're a college football fan, that's probably a big name for you guys out there. But LSU says clean eating is more of a concept than a diet. I totally agree with this. It has become a global movement with a range of practices. Yes, I agree with that too. The essence of clean eating is eating whole, minimally processed foods that are as close as possible to their natural state. So what do you guys think so far? Considering all these definitions, it becomes clear that the overall concept of clean eating revolves around fresh whole foods, fresh meats, and minimally processed ingredients, or in some definitions, it's non-processed foods altogether. However, technically, there is no official definition, and the health and wellness space has taken this concept and just really ran with it in a million directions, which causes confusion. It gets pretty noisy out there, you guys. If you go on Pinterest in search of clean eating, you will get a lot of really great recipes, but the concept still isn't clear. Some are no added sugar meal plans, some are centered around raw recipes, and some are non-dairy recipes. It's super vague, a little bit all over the place, and just another example of why this healthy eating universe is saturated with too much information. In the definition from LSU, they call out that clean eating is actually more of a concept. And that was my mindset and the idea that sparked this episode. And I was so excited to read that definition in LSU because I do truly believe that it's more of a concept, and it's a concept that you can personalize for your own goals and your lifestyle. So today we will explore 11 styles of clean eating that you can implement into your nutrition routine. What you'll find is that, like LSU calls out, there's a range of practices, and I think it's pretty fun to explore them all and then find the one or two or three that maybe work best for you in your lifestyle. You'll notice that different practices of clean eating can stand alone. Others are sort of intertwined and or can be combined. I will also share my personal preference of how I live out the concept of clean eating in our home. Learning about all the different ways you can optimize your nutrition for weight loss and overall wellness to ensure you are thriving is something I encourage you all to take action on. Take your time and get to know nutrition concepts and experiment with different routines to get the perfect fit for you. The concept of clean eating was a major buzzword way back when. I feel like it was really popular when I was pregnant with my son. So that was like 15 plus years ago. OMG. It was flooding our social media pages, blogs, and even the bookstore's cookbook shelves were plastered with clean eating recipes, clean eating blog articles. The magazines, Shape magazine and all the magazines in the grocery store were like clean eating this, clean eating that. And in many cases, it was sold as a weight loss diet that would allow you to pretty much eat whatever you want without counting calories as long as it was, I'm doing air quotes, clean. This was a problem. It wasn't clear what clean meant because there were so many different versions of a clean diet. I want to pause for a second because if you've been listening to the Health Hobby podcast for a bit, then you know that if you have a weight loss goal, then you need to lock in a calorie budget and track your calories to work to be in a healthy range caloric deficit each day, period, end of story. So that means if you eat clean, the definitions we haven't hashed out yet, but let's just say you are making your food from scratch. This is one way that one could consider that they're eating clean. You can still overeat and still gain weight or hinder your weight loss goals. If you're needing support in setting up your calorie budget, be sure to listen to episode number 18 and number 20. These episodes walk you through the math of calculating your custom calorie budget and tracking the calories. both have downloadable free resources for you as well. You want to go check those out. So we can squash that clean eating selling point right there, that you can just eat whatever you want. I could put in a little asterisk on that. We're going to get into the different styles here, but like if you were just eating raw diet, this is one of the ones we're going to talk about here in a minute, you could probably literally eat whatever you want. And because you just couldn't eat enough food to like overeat probably. I'm saying that with a grain of salt, no pun intended, but I do want to hammer home that this is a weight loss themed podcast for women, and I really want to teach the requirement of eating appropriate portions, and there's always ways to fudge your diet here and there, and I do realize that everyone's unique. There might be a need to work through weight loss in an alternate strategy, and there is other strategies, of course. But if you're listening to me, that is my philosophy, that, really strategic and solid weight loss comes from working to eat a full balanced diet and eating within so you have a calorie deficit, not just because you're eating clean. And that was something that was advertised to all of us and a lot of us women. So weight loss, fad diets, and things like that, all that stuff is just funneled to us, especially now social media is just in our face all the time. It's just fed to us over and over and over again. And not even so much to men, it's just to women, because we're so susceptible and so interested in like, what's the next best thing that I can do to lose weight, because we've struggled for so long. So clean eating isn't bad. I'm not saying it's a terrible concept. In fact, I really like the idea, and we're going to talk about why here in a second. But I just want to make sure that we understand that we can overeat in most eating styles. And just because you are eating keto doesn't mean you are 100% guaranteed to lose weight, for example. So I'm not really into fad diets, but I do like the concept of clean eating. I don't consider it a fad diet, actually. And I hope that this episode and the one after can kind of explain all the different eating styles, so you can see how clean eating is actually pretty flexible, because you can customize it to your goals. So, and your own personal lifestyle. But when clean eating first came out, it was really sold as this weight loss. It was the greatest thing. I was like, you can eat clean. Again, super generic. We didn't know what that meant. And we would get a clean eating cookbook that said one thing and then read an article on someone's blog that said another. It was quite confusing. And this is one of the things that really gets under my skin in the weight loss space. It's not fair or ethical to spin diets in that light when, really, according to me and a bunch of science, like I'm not just making this up, that the really hard and fast thing that works 100% of the time is a calorie deficit. So spinning clean eating as you can eat whatever you want to lose weight diet only makes things more confusing and ultimately creates frustration for women who eat clean with intentions to lose weight, and it doesn't work. Yet another diet that didn't work when it said it would. And then you're on the hamster wheel again, trying to find the next best thing. So listening to the Health Hobby podcast, you're in the right place, downloading the free resources that I give you, working through some of the strategies that can help you get to those dreamy weight loss goals, will help you see through all of the noise in the clean eating 30 million definition space. And I hope it will help you understand that you can eat clean to lose weight in combination with your calorie budget. So circling back to the initial concept of clean eating, it just wasn't clear. So some clean eaters were vegan, some were gluten-free, and some were, a million other things under the sun. It really became this ambiguous concept that I feel has since faded and dissipated into the internet ether. But I actually really love the initial intention of this concept of clean eating, which was eating whole, fresh foods, so non-processed foods. That is a really smart way to, I'm doing air quotes again, clean eat. And so many reasons why, but I feel like reading all the different definitions that I shared just a minute ago, it seemed that it was the whole fresh foods, non-processed foods. That's technically clean eating. So still a little bit vague, pretty vast, right? But it does clarify for me, like, okay, so I'm not going to, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. That's one way to kind of start clean eating, right? Because you get to the produce and then you get to the meat and you get to the eggs and things like that and everything in between, although there's some great stuff in between, like the herbs and spices and things like that. Typically are processed foods. That's just a little strategy that shopping the perimeter of the grocery store is a great way to start trying to implement clean eating into your routine. Obviously, plenty of junk food and food that we don't need on the perimeter of the grocery store, like the bakery, right? The donuts, but just a quick example there for you. But before I get into all the clean eating options for you to consider, get into the YouTube comments and tell me, what is your definition of clean eating? I really want to know what you think it is. I know I went through some of those definitions already, but pretend you didn't hear them. What did you think clean eating was before you listened to this episode? To prepare for today's episode and the one coming up, I brainstormed all the ways I felt one could eat clean. I was surprised that I came up with 11 different eating routines. That is so crazy. You can look up one of these eating styles I'm going to talk about, and it will say this is a clean eating routine. So I want you to decide on your own. Listen all the way through and pick out which ones spark your interest or feels like it makes the most sense for you, your family, and then you can give it a shot. And I just want to remind everyone, this episode will actually be a 2-part series, so be sure to come back next week to listen to the second half of our clean eating discussion. But as we get into talking about these different clean eating styles, right off the bat, you will easily see that many of these concepts melt together. Think Venn diagram. They can stand alone or work together and all come together to be clean eating. The goal for any new eating routine is that it has to work for you. You will have to make some shifts or even eliminate some foods in efforts to reach your weight loss goals, but you do have the control to make this whatever you want. Okay, let's unpack 11 styles of clean eating so we can demystify this concept and find out which one sparks your interest most, or maybe which one or two or three. Okay, number 1, whole foods / non-processed foods. When we talk about eating whole, non-processed foods, we're really just talking about getting back to the basics. So eating foods as close to the natural state as possible, right? That's what our definition said earlier in the podcast. And think apples instead of apple-flavored cereal, brown rice instead of a box of mixed rice. So like raw rice, you just get a whole bag of rice instead of like a pre-prepared seasoned rice. These foods are packed with nutrients, fiber, and flavor because they haven't been stripped down, bleached, or filled with preservatives. It's food our great-great-grandparents would recognize, and your body will thank you for eating them. And if you were going to the market, you would shop the produce section and at the butcher. The concept of shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, which I just mentioned, really works with this clean eating concept. Maybe the frozen veggies and, the frozen veggies and fruit section is okay, the eggs. What you're thinking about is really just single ingredients to make your meals. Quickly, let's touch on the ingredients list for a second. So you can participate in clean eating by always flipping the package over and checking out the ingredients list. If the list is extremely long, beware. If you can't pronounce the ingredients listed, also a huge red flag. That food isn't clean, meaning it is chock full of additives, miscellaneous chemicals, preservatives, food dyes, and flavor enhancers. A really common ingredient that's in a lot of food, even organic foods, which we'll talk about in a second, is, I'm doing air quotes, natural flavors. This is one of my favorite ones. And when you read the word natural flavors, it seems benign, but it's basically mystery chemicals that can be derived from natural sources, but ultimately it's extremely processed and they are loosely monitored. Ultra-processed foods have been linked to a long list of diseases, including the big 3 here in the US, so heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. Here on the Health Hobby Podcast, I want to encourage you to hit your weight loss target, but also know that by losing weight and revamping your eating styles has more important effects on your life, such as arming you with major defenses to hopefully stave off disease. I have a personal connection with this. Diabetes runs rampant in my family, and I will do everything in my power to not get diabetes. So if processed foods is going to bump up my chances, I say no way, no thank you. And I always want to let you guys, I'm not perfect at this, but I really do try hard to eat mostly whole foods. And yeah, we have packaged foods in my house, but I do my best to make sure the ingredients list isn't super funky and it has mostly clean ingredients in it. But let's simplify and make this super easy. When participating in this clean eating concept, single ingredient foods are best. But if you buy packaged foods, you've got to make it a routine to review what's in the packaged food. So the fewer ingredients, the better. More real food ingredients listed versus chemical names, the better. So, getting into the routine of evaluating the foods you buy is super important, just for overall wellness, but also for our purposes today when implementing a supercharger whole foods clean eating routine. Okay, clean eating style number 2, eating organic foods. Organic eating is about more than just avoiding pesticides. It's a whole philosophy centered on how our food is grown, raised, and treated before it gets to our plates. Organic produce is grown without synthetic fertilizers or chemicals, and organic meat and dairy come from animals that aren't given antibiotics or hormones. It's a way of eating that supports the health of the environment, the animals, and you. I love the concept of organic eating as a clean eating style. And I did a really big research project on organic foods for one of my English classes way back in college, and I actually learned so much. Organic foods go through a rigorous certification down to the truck and the factories they may be packed in. So a lot of us think of like, oh, the food that the cows are eating, or they're eating grass that's not sprayed with, pesticides. They're not getting hormones, or the chickens are running around in the fields and they're getting, real chicken feed, not just corn. And it's everything down to that is organic, but even the way that the chickens are processed and the packaging that they go in, everything has to be certified as organic. Not to mention, they are super strict on fertilizer and pesticide rules for organic foods, which is one of the major reasons I really work to eat mostly organic. And I encourage anyone else out there to as well. I get super hot about this, and it's a huge topic right now. It's infiltrated our government and politics, which I'm super glad, because the commercial food industry is literally spraying poison on our foods and pumps other chemicals into our foods. It's obviously a massive topic for another time, but the good news is you can avoid most of that junk when eating organic. So for today's meaning, so we're talking about clean eating, that means it's clean of toxic chemicals and dangerous pesticides. When I think of clean eating, I really feel like organic encompasses the whole concept of clean eating. When I think of dirty foods, I don't think of a carrot that has dirt on it because I just pulled it out of the ground, right? No, I think of foods that are saturated with glyphosate, preservatives, and other pesticides that have devastating health consequences, dyes, things like that. And organic foods are void of that junk. So now that we chatted about 2 styles of clean eating, you can see how style number 1, eating whole foods / non-processed foods, and style number 2, eating organic, can roll together. You can buy whole foods that are not organic, and you can buy them as organic. It's up to you. And I know that there's going to be someone out there saying eating organic is way too expensive. You shouldn't be telling us that all of us should eat organic. I want to encourage you to eat organic, and I do see the prices are more expensive, but a little advice to steer your financial decisions around food purchases. I shop at Costco, and there are killer deals on organic produce. It's a really great way for our family to save money on organic whole foods and meats. And even some processed foods like cereals or tortilla chips, we can buy organic at Costco. So they have a really nice ingredients list that's, minus all the funky chemicals. So the ingredients lists are pretty good, and I can feel confident that the foods are clean of dangerous chemicals. So some other options is you can grow some of your own foods with organic gardening techniques, and or go to farmers markets, which have better prices at times because there is no markup from the stores. And I should mention that one can eat organic foods and still be quite unhealthy depending on what foods you're consuming. So just because it's organic doesn't mean it's not packed with sugars and other ingredients that we should eat sparingly. That's why I really love combining my definition of clean eating to encompass the whole foods, non-processed, and organic styles. All right, the next style coming up is number 3, vegan and vegetarianism. And I combine these together just for the sake of time, but I feel like they're similar enough to talk about as a pair. Vegan and vegetarian diets focus on eating more plants, so fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and seeds. Vegetarians avoid meat, while vegans take it a step further and skip all animal products, including dairy and eggs. People choose these paths for all kinds of reasons, so health, ethics, environmental impact, and when done right, they can be incredibly nutrient dense and full of variety and quite delicious. I would say some of my favorite foods are vegetarian foods. Eat when you don't eat meat, it becomes a little more challenging to get a full protein profile. When you can eat a steak and get a full pack of protein versus when you are vegetarian or vegan, you have to eat a certain combination of, nuts, legumes, veggies to get the full protein profile. Not impossible. People do it all the time and it totally works. It's just for me that is, having meat, although I find it super delicious, is also really important for me so I can ensure that I'm getting a full protein profile. However, I do respect the concept and see how it's beneficial to the environment. And it's a great inspiration for eating more fruits and vegetables and more plant-based. Eating clean in this style is great for making sure you're taking in a lot of fiber, vitamins and minerals, trace elements, and antioxidants. Plants have major medicinal benefits, so this is a powerful clean eating style for those of you who can go without eating steak or bacon. That is not me. I can't. I'm an omnivore for life. But if you feel that eating meat is dirty in a sense because of its environmental impact and other personal opinions about eating meat, I respect that, but this is just another way that you can eat clean. Okay, clean eating style number 4, the raw diet. So this one, I remember when this came about, it was quite a long time ago too. I was definitely intrigued by this. I thought this was a pretty cool idea, but raw food enthusiasts believe that cooking can destroy important enzymes and nutrients. So they focus on eating mostly uncooked, unprocessed plant-based foods. So things like fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and sprouted grains. The goal is to maximize nutrition and energy by keeping things in their purest, most natural form. So not only is the raw diet sticking to that definition, to some of the definitions that we read, right? Whole foods, non-processed, it's closest to its natural form. This goes a step further and they're like, we want it to be as pure. So I'm picking an apple off the tree. I'm eating the apple instead of making applesauce, right? And breaking down some of those minerals and other components that make up the apple that they think that could cooking can diminish the nutritional value or the nutritional density of all these different foods. So we can see how eating raw has this essence of eating clean, right? Its focus is eating in the natural form. So whole foods, non-processed foods, like the first style we talked about. But the difference here is the preparation. So minimal cooking, lots of purees, for soups or, gazpacho, that's so good. Or if you were to cook the veggies, it would be a very brief saute or a blanch with the foods being al dente, so barely heated up. I learned that if you're cooking foods like in the raw eating style, and what I learned when I was researching this even more for today's episode, I learned that if you're cooking foods while eating in the raw style, then you do not cook your foods hotter than 118 degrees Fahrenheit. And some even say no warmer than 104 degrees Fahrenheit. A little controversy there, but again, it's not very warm. So, your vegetables would be al dente and things like that. Nice and crunchy. That's how I like my vegetables. So I could probably eat raw. There are some very encouraging benefits of eating raw. And I have to admit, when this trend came out, I was definitely like, I think I want to do it. I bought a cookbook that was a raw cookbook that had some really great recipes in it. But here's some really great benefits of eating raw. So better gut health, so improved digestion and happy gut microbiome, an immune booster, because you're eating so much vegetables and fruit. So lots of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. You can see how this is super similar to the whole foods clean eating style. So you're not eating ultra processed foods. So you're reducing your risk of diseases and health problems that come from those types of icky foods. And there's also environmental benefits such as less waste and packaging, etc. So raw eating and vegetarianism, whole foods go together. Remember, I was like, think Venn diagram, they all kind of could be the same thing if you wanted to. But because typically those on a raw diet won't be eating meats, I always, I want to put up a little bit of a warning. So there's a risk of getting sick when you're eating raw. So be sure that you're washing your fruits and vegetables. And please remember, if you are eating meats, I know eating meat isn't typically on the raw diet, but I just want to remind everyone, if you are cooking meat, you want to make sure to cook them thoroughly. So when I say don't cook your food past 104 degrees, I'm really talking about vegetables or fruits and not meat. So you want to make sure that you're thoroughly cooking your meats to the temperatures that are appropriate for that particular type of meat, chicken, pork, beef. They all have a different cooking temperature that's considered safe. But consider the raw veggies and fruit eating style. It's super important to know some produce can also harbor bacteria. So just be careful with this one, you guys. But really, any change to your eating routine, you need to be careful. I just want to say that. So everyone responds differently. And that's why I'm always sharing at the end of my podcast to be following your doctor's orders, and also remind you that what works for me may not work for you or your neighbor, what works for your neighbor, vice versa, all those things. All of them are reason to track your food and make this clean eating style routine customized to you and your personal needs. Okay, let's roll into clean eating style number 5, paleo. Oh boy, paleo was, I still feel like it's like everywhere. Paleo was, does anyone remember this one? So total diet trend, and in the raw diet was also a big trend too. I don't think vegan and vegetarianism, those are just kind of out there, but like paleo, that really had that, it's like this buzzword. It's definitely a fad diet. The paleo way of eating is inspired by how our ancestors might have eaten during the Paleolithic era. It emphasizes foods we could hunt or gather, like meat, fish, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds, all things we can gather at the grocery store. And avoids things like grains, dairy, and processed sugars. So the idea is to fuel your body with foods it's naturally built to digest. So this paleo concept it's quite interesting. The style of eating clean is similar to the whole foods, right? No processed foods. When I was researching for this episode, I became curious about what the anthropologists have determined the Paleolithic humans actually ate. And here is what I found out. I read this great article in the Smithsonian, can't say that, magazine titled, "Our Ancestors Ate a Paleo Diet with Carbs." I was like, this is great, because the paleo diet came about when this low carb trend just blasted our lives. It's still there and it has benefits, yes, but I loved this because I don't like the bad rap that carbohydrates get. And so I was like, yay, go Smithsonian Magazine. But it has this great title because this article drives home the point of the real essence of hunter-gatherer diet, which was mainly based on geographical region and quite variable because of how we would have moved around so frequently in this time. So you would eat what you have access to at the time. So it wasn't like if you go, I'm always referencing going to Pinterest because I get a lot of recipes on there. And you pop in, I want to eat a paleo meal plan. Well, it's going to be like, you can only eat this, 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 and this. Well, that's very restrictive. And that's not really how a Paleolithic diet would have been, because there would be maybe same or similar types of things, but they would be moving around quite a bit. So one day they might have been eating, tubers or sweet potato type of thing. And the next day they might have maybe killed a pheasant and ate that. I'm just making foods up. I don't really know, but I'm just trying to drive a point. So that means some of our ancestors ate a diet heavy in meat, right? So, and others may have maybe had small bouts of meat, but mostly vegetables, fruit or starchy tubers, flowers, and honey. Some were even fish dominant and minimal vegetables. So, a little history lesson should be done before diving into the paleo diet. But I do like the intention of this clean eating style in that it's just getting back to basics again, right? The whole foods. And a really cool aspect of this, if you can take it into consideration about what the historians are saying, is that to really eat a paleo diet and to take this to heart, you guys, you would only be eating foods that are available in your region. So, not available because you have a massive agricultural system around you that can grow anything and you can get anything. So now I just I think about where I live because we have large family farming operations. So it's a little tricky to say, okay, what's available in your region? So like here in Sonoma County in Northern California, we have access to literally everything. And it's a big agricultural space as most of California is, but it could be a fun project to see what foods naturally were around here and maybe, what did the Native Americans eat before all of us came here and what was their routine, what was their go-to meals. And that's really what the historians would say is a Paleolithic diet, is what's naturally available to eat in your region. So just for fun, I know for an example here in my region of Northern California, we have deer, we have tule elk, we have wild boar, wild turkeys, we have a lot of small game, rabbits, squirrels, we have mountain lions, we have coyotes, lots of fish, right? We're really near the ocean, big rivers around us. Crab is a big thing around here. We have a lot of natural water resources. So lots of really delicious stuff. But I'm not so sure about the natural vegetation that we could eat around here. I'm not sure. I think maybe some berries. That's the first thing I can think of. Maybe some grasses. I would have to do some research. So that is a true paleo diet, eating what's naturally available within your regional space per season even, right? So you have to think about what season is it. So it's not just like, okay, we can have crab all the time. Well, it's not always crab season. So you'd have to change up what you ate. This true Paleolithic eating style isn't really realistic for us modern humans, but again, could be a fun experiment. Maybe you could do that. And circling back to the mainstream concept of paleo, it's pretty much the same as the whole food, non-processed eating routine. Nothing in a package, just single ingredients. It even melts into the raw foods and organic styles as well, right? So everything's kind of coming together. So for me, I feel like the name is basically just a selling point because it sounds super cool, but it's really no different than those other eating styles. So that can make it a lot more simple. If you just take the time to be like, okay, what does this even really mean? You'd be like, oh, okay, so organic foods, things that are close to us, things that, are not processed, make it simple. If these, when you're kind of diving into these fad diets and just kind of dig out the actual meat of what it's trying to convey. So non-processed foods, right? Just natural occurring whole foods would be a Paleolithic diet for the modern human. Okay, we're getting into style number 6. And this one I love a lot for clean eating, and that is no added sugar. This is a huge trend. If you look for clean eating, a lot of the clean eating meal plans are going to have you work to reduce or eliminate added sugars. And this is another one that I personally really work to incorporate into our routine here in the Ford household. So eating with no added sugar means being mindful of how much sugar is snuck into your food, especially in the processed snacks, drinks, sauces, and even so-called healthy products. So salad dressing, sauces, you guys. So instead of added sweeteners or added sugars, this style focuses on naturally sweet whole foods like fruit or honey. It's about stabilizing blood sugar, reducing cravings, and feeling more balanced throughout the day. This is one of those topics that gets me really fired up, you guys. So let me just say up front, I think we all should enjoy a cupcake or some ice cream or your fave candy while you're watching a movie once in a while. You can't make a cupcake without adding sugar, pretty understandable. And I actually am a huge home baker. I bake cakes from scratch, and I can tell you that they take some major amounts of sugar, like a lot of sugar. But I don't bake cakes every week and save those delicious treats for very special occasions. So here's the thing, the food industry piles on sugar into foods that really don't need any added sugar, but they add it to make them more appealing, more flavorful, and for preserving the foods also, and some other reasons. Look, that's all well and good, but I really think it's gone a bit too far. If you Google clean eating diets or pop into Pinterest, you'll see a lot of recipes or meal plans that specifically call out clean eating, like a clean eating sugar detox meal plan or no added sugared meal plan, clean eating with no added sugars, sugar elimination diet. The added sugar to our processed foods is totally unnecessary and it's making us all sick and fat. It's true. The challenge is it's very difficult to get away from. So, my recommendation is to simply do your best here. You can easily rock this clean eating style by doing the following. Always check the food nutrition facts. There will be a line item that specifically calls out added sugar. So I really like when the line is 0 grams, but I personally have a little max of 3 to 5 grams of added sugar. I may consider buying it, but I really try not to. Give yourself, like, what's my threshold? Okay, if it has 5 grams of added sugar, is that okay with you? I actually don't have the recommendation. I'm just trying to encourage you to get things with 0 added sugar. And it just takes time in evaluating the food label, like I said, when we're talking about non-processed foods above. So another way that you can do this is just cut out the sugary beverages, you guys, sodas, juices, even diet sodas, all of those Starbucks drinks that I see everyone drinking. I can't even believe people drink those. It is so crazy. Or like Arizona iced teas. I love Arizona iced tea. I just have to say, Arnold Palmer, let's go. But one of those cans of Arizona iced tea, it's actually 3 servings. And each serving, I think I'm making this number up, but I'm pretty sure it's right, has 24 grams of added sugar. So if you drink the entire can of Arizona iced tea, which most people do, that's 20, let's just round it up to 25 to make it easy. That's 75 grams of added sugar. That is so much sugar. I think that's almost a cup of sugar. And it's just totally unnecessary. It causes inflammation and makes you have blood sugar spikes and all kinds of things that can cause a lot of problems. So another food I want you to consider when you're like, okay, I'm going to try to stop eating all this added sugar. I want you to be not only aware of all the sodas and the sugary beverages, because that's the number one culprit in our current culture. If you just get rid of those, you're going to probably feel a whole lot better. But I want you to be aware of yogurt. I know that sounds crazy, but yogurt is typically considered healthy. Yes, I agree it's healthy, but unless you're eating plain yogurt, you are probably eating a whopping amount of sugar within your healthy snack. For example, Yoplait, one of the most popular yogurt brands on the shelves, has 16 grams of added sugar in their vanilla flavored yogurt. So that's just the one serving little cup you would buy, out of the yogurt section, that one thing you would pop into your lunch. That right there has 16 grams of added sugar in that serving. That is a lot. There are a lot of other funky things in that yogurt too that I would not recommend eating, but I always call out yogurt because many people feel like they're hitting their mark when they're eating a yogurt, but it's not plain yogurt. So something pretty wild is that particular yogurt has the same amount of sugar as a serving of original M&Ms, which is wild and crazy. So you might as well just go get a pack of M&Ms instead of eating that Yoplait vanilla yogurt. But plain yogurt with some fresh fruit is such a better option, and it's so good. It's almost like dessert. It's one of my favorite things to eat. And if you get plain Greek yogurt, it almost has like this whipped texture, and it's like almost like you're eating whipped cream and like with strawberries. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Another one I want to warn you guys about with added sugar is applesauce. So it doesn't need any added sugar. It's already sweet. And I used to buy a lot of applesauce for my kids, and I would always just grab one. And one time I came home, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like a sugar snack. And I just started making applesauce on my own. It's quite simple to make, but applesauce doesn't need any added sugar. So just make sure the package says no added sugar. And quite many of them do nowadays say no added sugar on the applesauce. And if you can get organic, that's even better. Organic in a glass jar, that's triple better, that's double better. But so instead, it focuses on being vigilant about your food packaging and making the choice to not eat the foods with added sugars and instead eat foods with natural sweetness like fruits and veggies and maybe some added honey once in a while. Or if you like cereal or oatmeal for breakfast, stick to the plain cereals and the plain oatmeals and add some flavor with spices, fruits, nuts, and seeds. So, watch out for sugary beverages, applesauce, yogurt. Those are two things I like to warn people about. And then, always making sure that you're checking your food labels. Such a great routine. You're going to learn a lot once you start looking at your food labels. It's really going to open your mind up to eating clean in a lot of different ways and all these different concepts and styles that we're going to be talking about today and in the next episode. So to close out the discussion on this style of eating, I want to share this stat. The average American consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day, or about 270 calories. So for our purposes on the Health Hobby podcast, if you could cut 270 calories from your daily calorie intake by working to remove added sugars, you would potentially begin to lose weight right away because it's so much. That's actually getting close to a really nice calorie deficit. 270 calories, that would be a great calorie deficit for someone just starting out. And just by eliminating sugary drinks, can you imagine? Like, I say that lightly because your weight loss is based on your specific calorie needs and budget, but 270 calories a day is a big number. So I'm just trying to drive this point home. What if you started eating clean with this no added sugar concept in mind? It's actually fairly easy to do and has major health benefits outside of potential weight loss. The majority of this comes from sugary beverages and all the soda, Starbucks, and whatever else you're consuming in this area. You could just get rid of it. It's got to be gone. You could just get rid of it. You can drink plain water. I hate saying that, but I hate saying that. I don't like telling people to get rid of things that they enjoy, but drinking your calories in this way is just not great. And I feel like switching up what you drink is a pretty simple way to ease your way into clean eating instead of overhauling your entire eating routine all at once with maybe one of these other methods that we talked about earlier. So far, we've had a robust exploration of 6 so-called clean eating strategies. When we think about our weight loss journeys, we are most likely going to participate in at least a couple of these concepts and eating styles. It's important to think about what makes the most sense to you and your goals. And keeping in mind eating a well-balanced diet with a variety of foods, working to get as many nutrients from whole foods as possible is best. How you do that is in your hands. So that wraps up part 1 of the Demystifying Clean Eating series. So far, what is your clean eating style, right? Out of those 6, what do you think is your style if you were to think back? So I want you to share in the YouTube comments, and I bet most of you are a combination of these. Who knows, you might be all of them. That's okay too. But be sure to come back next week to demystify 5 more clean eating concepts to round out our knowledge set in this 2-part series. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. My goal, as always, is to help you find inspiration and excitement around healthy living and to spark curiosity and ultimately action to learn more about how you can feel and look your best without feeling overwhelmed as a busy mom. If this show resonates with you, I'd love to ask for your help in supporting the podcast so I can continue creating helpful episodes and offering free downloadable resources to as many busy moms as possible. Here are a few totally free ways you can support the podcast. First, you can subscribe to the Health Hobby Podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Apple and Spotify, you can also leave a 5-star review. Subscribing and leaving reviews really do make a difference, so thank you in advance. Another great and free way to support the show is to share this episode either on your social media or directly with a friend who might enjoy today's topic. As a reminder, if you have any content questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube comments. And if you're looking for the free resources I often mention in episodes, I keep them all in one handy place. Just click the free resources vault link in the show notes of any episode to access everything. You can also connect to me directly on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. The handle for all of them is at the Health Hobby Podcast. And last but not least, I have an epic community newsletter. It's a great way to go deeper on podcast topics and connect with me more personally. I share parts of my own healthy living and weight loss journey that only my email subs get to see. It's a fun, encouraging space where we build real conversation and community among busy moms working toward better health and weight loss together. To join the newsletter, again, it's totally free. Just scroll down to the show notes, click newsletter, and enter your email address. I'd be so excited to have you join me and the hundreds of other moms in our tight-knit, healthy living community. Alrighty, thanks for being here, you guys. Stay happy and stay healthy, everyone. Hey there, me again. Quick disclaimer. Here on the Health Hobby Podcast, I share tips, insights, and ideas to help you on your weight loss and fitness journey. But I'm not your doctor or your personal health guru. Before diving into any nutrition or fitness plans I talk about, make sure to check in with your healthcare provider. They know your body best. Think of this podcast as your cheerleader and a place for healthy living idea inspiration, not your prescription pad. Stay safe, stay smart, and let's crush those goals together. Until next time.